Truthfully, ladies and gentlemen, there's not a single person that was on that stage last night that I have 100% praise for. In my view, every single person standing on that stage could have done something differently, could have done something better. We'll start with Christie. I honestly thought, and this is really surprising, you might think hell is frozen over because, number one, I thanked John Kasich, and now I'm saying this about Christie. I thought he had a decent night. Christie last night was very bold, and he came across very strong. And I liked the passion. I truly did. But the problem with Christie is that as much as he yells and as passionate as he seems to get, he's not a consistent conservative. It's just plain and simple. He's not a consistent conservative. I wish he was. I do admire Christie for his stance on abortion, for example, and how he cut funding in his state. And when they tried to restart the funding, meaning the Democrats in New Jersey, he vetoed it 8 times. I like that about Christie. But on many other issues, he's not consistently conservative. And the other thing about Christie is he talks way the hell too much about compromise. You know how I feel about compromise. Compromising with a radical Democrat Party that's led by a man who wants to fundamentally transform this country. I don't believe you compromise with that. I believe you defeat that. John Kasich. Again, I give him credit for stepping in and saying, let's actually talk about policy. But John Kasich is what I consider to be one of the big butts. Now, what do I mean by a big butt? Well, John Kasich is one of these guys, much like Pataki, who will say things like this. You know, I believe in religious liberty. I believe that everyone has religious freedom in this country, but ... In the case of Kim Davis, this is just an example. I believe in religious liberty, but it's the law of the land. The Supreme Court has ruled it's the law of the land. Same-sex marriage. John Kasich. Well, personally, I believe in traditional marriage, but ... It's the law of the land. Heard that over and over and over again, and it was honestly more so in the first debate among Pataki and Graham. Another big but. Well, I believe this, but I believe that, but no, it's just whatever you believe, you fight for. I think that's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. Can't tell if I had a nickel for every damn time I heard the phrase law of the land, I'd be up there with Donald Trump. Carly Fiorina. Strong, articulate. Her rant against Planned Parenthood, I just cut out there, I apologize. Against Planned Parenthood, I think, was truly masterful. She's great on a lot of issues. But I don't trust her yet. I am having serious problems trusting Carly Fiorina. There are certain things about her that rub me the wrong way. a week or two ago, she attacked Ted Cruz on the government shutdown and said it was his fault. Said there was no honor in defunding Obamacare. So Carly Fiorina, while she says a lot of great things, while she's incredibly intelligent, she hasn't won my trust yet. Scott Walker. He did well. He's a rock-solid conservative. He has a proven record. But Scott Walker, and maybe this is just something, I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but Scott Walker seems to be missing something. I don't really know what it is. It really has nothing to do with policy because, again, the guy's pretty solid. But it's almost as if he fails to energize me. I don't feel any real energy or I don't know. There's just some element of Scott Walker missing for me. I can't get excited about his candidacy. But I think he did well in the debates. I think he held his own. Just as he did in the last one. Jeb Bush. What can I say about Jeb Bush? They didn't talk too much about immigration last night. We all know where Jeb Bush stands on immigration. He honestly didn't have a horrible night. To be fair. I still really hate his guts, to be honest with you. But Jeb Bush is another one of these people who, as you know, Donald Trump says this all the time, and I completely agree with him. Jeb Bush lacks any energy whatsoever. He lacks energy. He lacks passion. He lacks the ability to inspire. And beyond that, no matter what he says, and no matter if he has a good night in a debate on CNN, Jeb Bush is still, as Ted Cruz says, part of the Washington cartel. He's still an insider. He's still part of the establishment. Donald Trump. Donald Trump was the typical Donald Trump last night. Spoke in the same way. Very passionate, very energized. Doesn't take crap from anybody. And that's a good quality to have in a president, ladies and gentlemen. It truly is. But when it comes to Donald Trump, I'd really like to see him get into more detail. I've made this point before. Donald Trump kind of repeats the same thing over and over and over again. And there are minor things that I disagree with him on. Perfectly honest with you. I'd like to see him talk in more detail about not necessarily what he plans to do, but how he plans to do it. But Donald Trump, I think, had a pretty good night. Ben Carson. I like the guy a lot. He's articulate. He's intelligent. He's a little too soft-spoken. Now, I'm not saying that everyone has to be as loud as Donald Trump. But I think if you're running for president, you need to energize the base. And Carson, I think he is right on a lot of different issues. I want to see him become more passionate, become more loud, become more outspoken instead of this kind of monotone talk that he always does. And he lost me on the minimum wage issue, too. He wants to raise the minimum wage. I don't. Ted Cruz. Articulate as all hell. Bold. Very well spoken, particularly when it came to the issue of Iran. But Ted Cruz didn't get a lot of speaking time by CNN. And while I believe that's largely the fault of CNN, I think Ted Cruz, given the fact that he has so many good ideas and he's so articulate, he needs to work on nudging himself in there a little bit more. He needs to speak up a little bit more and fight for more airtime. Again, he has great ideas, but they're meaningless if he's not getting a lot of airtime. Marco Rubio. The guy sounds just like Ronald Reagan. And I'm not even talking as a matter of policy. I'm talking in his voice. Sounds just like Reagan. I don't know if that's just me. But I honestly hear Ronald Reagan when he speaks. Very well spoken. Probably one of the best speakers we have. Solid on pretty much every issue, but for a lot of conservatives, I still think that his stance on immigration is very, very troubling. But I do think Rubio did great last night. I think he was one of the better ones. Huckabee. He says great things. I like his stance on religious liberty and on social conservatism in general. But he, too, isn't a consistent conservative. He's supported and backed in the past many establishment Republicans. So he hasn't won over my trust yet either, to be perfectly honest. And Rand Paul. Again, he defends the Constitution, which I admire. He talks about the Bill of Rights, which I admire. We can't lose sight of those things, because God knows the Democrats already have. He defends the Constitution. He talks about liberty. But he worries me, to be honest with you, on foreign policy. I'm not sure he would be able to get the job done if something, God forbid, if there was another 9/11 type event. Rand Paul, like his father, is a non-interventionalist, or so it seems. And I'm sorry, I don't believe in non-interventionalism. I believe when we are threatened, which we are right now, you go in, you kick ass, and you go home. Rand Paul, like his father, does not believe in that. And so that worries me. That worries me.